Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Blacklogic. So this morning, a Chinese startup named DeepSeek has developed an AI chat box that's not only rivaling Western counterparts like ChatGPT, but it also causing significant market tremors. This development has led to a very notable decline in shares of major tech companies, including NVIDIA. Don't forget, NVIDIA just released their RTX 5090 graphics card that's going to be upwards of almost $3,000 if you guys are into, graphics card. I build my own computer, so I'm essentially familiar with graphics card and how that intakes. I currently have an Asus graphics card. I don't recall the number. I think it's a 4090s, one of the top ones. But nonetheless, for you guys who are interested, including NVIDIA, Microsoft, Meta, and Alphabet. So a lot of people are asking, what exactly is DeepSeek? It's an AI assistant that has rapidly climbed to the top of Apple's App Store charts in the US, surpassing established players. What's even more astonishing is that DeepSeek achieved this feat with a fraction of the resources typically required. The latest model, DeepSeek version 3, was trained using NVIDIA's H800 chip, spending less than $6 million, which is a very stark contrast to the hefty investment made by American tech giants, because we're spending billions of dollars on AI, and they only took $6 million. Okay, they only took $6 million, but again, they're using a lot of the technology that ChatGPT, and they're just kind of building off of that. And this particular development raises critical questions about the future of AI development and the massive capital expenditures that have been deemed necessary by US companies. It is possible that more efficient and cost-effective methods like those employed by DeepSeek could disrupt the current AI landscape. Only time will tell, but one thing is certain, the AI race just got a lot more interesting. And for America is important because don't forget about the $500 billion that when President Donald Trump got SoftBank, as well as ChatGPT and Oracle together. These are the three CEOs, the three top men of these countries, and the amount of money they're going to essentially invest inside of building an AI infrastructure for America. Now, there's other notable countries that are involved, like Microsoft, stating that they have $80 billion to invest, but we have to see how this is unfold, because again, America's in a race with the world. And the race is, we're still trying to be more prominent, more aggressive, and be the most powerful, lucrative, prosperous country in the world, like we always been. This is what makes America America, because we see what everybody else is doing, and we say we want to do it better. Sometimes we may not do it faster, and we may not do it cheaper. In some regards, when it comes to AI, we're looking at security. We're thinking about infusing and implementing blockchain technology in our AI infrastructure. Don't forget about quantum computing. So all of these things are very interesting as this AI race is going along. Also, this is kind of a side note here. Supposedly, China has visited the dark side of the moon and brought back samples. I'll try to give you more information on that as these stories progress all together. These are just very interesting times. I want to keep you guys abreast of some interesting things or some things that you might have not, tuned in to watch. Now, turning our attention to illegal immigration, because there's been a significant development in the U.S.-Colombia relations. After initial resistance from President Gustavo of Colombia, he has agreed to accept deportation flights. Because initially he said, you need to start to treat people like human beings and not like criminals. And I made a very vague contrast of illegal immigrants and criminals, illegal criminals. And some people, well, we don't want to really label them like that. But again, if you break the law, doesn't that label you as a criminal? Like, again, and I'll say this for everyone, aren't we all criminals in some regards, meaning that we've all sped on the highway, you get a citation, you get a ticket, and you have to pay that, but didn't you break the law? But again, in America, we rank these things. That's why we have a court system. Laws that are more egregious that people break, you get more jail time. You may even get the death sentence. For pettier crimes, you get a ticket, you get a citation. You may have to show up in court. whatever the case may be. You may get your license revoked if you're a fourth, fifth, sixth time offender, or maybe you was drinking under the influence. Okay. But there's levels to it, essentially. So again, you're trespassing in someone else's country, you're a criminal. That is just my take on it. You guys may look at it very, very different. But initially, President Gustavo Preda stated that you are treating people like criminals, sending them on military aircraft, sending them back on military aircrafts. So we're not going to accept those flights. Wait a minute. If these are your countrymen and they're being flown over, so you would rather have your people jerked around, even though they're in the airspace, you didn't approve them to land, you have them send them back and then say, you know what? Since you're going to impose 25% tariffs on Colombia, that's just going to, kill our economy. Yeah, come on. What do you think Trump was going to do? Trump is not essentially a war president, right? He's using economics to put people in their place, in some regards, have a certain control by tolling them with tariffs. He said, you know what? These people that we've gathered together on these flights, now, again, I have to verify this, are from Colombian origin or came from the region of Colombia, right? And some of them may not even be Colombia, but nonetheless, I don't know what backwater deals that has occurred, but nonetheless, they have been flown, and then now you're going to take them because he threatened you with 25% tariffs. Because again, Trump was going to not only impose tariffs at 25%, but also sanctions on Colombia. And all of these countries are kind of, kicking the bucket like, I don't want to take them and I don't care what you do. Wait a minute, you're going to do tariffs, you're going to put sanctions on us? We're not going to have access to NATO countries. We're not going to have access to other European countries. Well, we have a lot of exports of fruits and minerals and all these other things that we export. This is going to hurt our economy. And again, it's going to hurt more people than it would if we did not take them. So initially, Colombia, President Petro, he refused to allow U.S. military aircraft carrying deportees to land, even imposing retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. But again, after facing the prospect of escalating economic consequences, Colombia conceded to the U.S. demands. The White House announced that Colombia would now accept deported Colombian nationals without delays on U.S. military flights, leading to the postponement of the threatened tariffs and sanctions. And that's what Trump did. He said, well, we're going to put sanctions. We're going to do 25% tariffs. And then again, President Petro stated, you know what? After second thought, we'll take the Colombian nationals back. Oh, okay. And I'm pretty sure a lot of, American politics, like, that's what we thought. I'm paraphrasing. That they didn't say that. But nonetheless, this development underscores a very complex dynamic of international relations and the leverage that economic powers can exert in diplomatic negotiations. It also highlights the ongoing challenges and controversies surrounding immigration policies and enforcement. And look forward for this happening a lot more with a lot of other countries altogether. We're not just talking about Central American countries like Salvador, okay? We're not Venezuela, Honduras, Ecuador, Costa Rica, Mexico. Look out for tariffs and sanctions on Caribbean countries like Haiti, African countries, all other sorts of country, India. Even though we have the vast majority of H-1B visas coming out of India, look at restrictions, look at sanctions, look at tariffs. China, of course, China has always been on the list. So these are things we can essentially look out for, okay? And here is Ukraine war briefing. U.S. has not stopped military aid to Ukraine. Interesting enough. You know what? Let's back up here because there's one thing I want to mention, because when we look at this very domestically, U.S. federal authorities have initiated intensified immigration raids in Chicago. And these operations aim to significantly increase daily arrests as part of the administration's border immigration enforcement measures. That's what this has done. The The raids have instilled fear and uncertainty within immigrant communities, leading to a noticeable decline in activity in areas like Chicago Little Village, known as Mexico of the Midwest. Reports indicate the foot traffic in this bustling shopping district has dropped by 50% due to concerns of all the raids that's occurring. And these actions have sparked debates about the balance between enforcing immigration laws and protecting the rights and well-being of immigrant communities, because the economic impact on local businesses and the broader implications for community relations are also concerns that people are having. And I wonder, the people that are having these concerns, are they illegal to the country? You know, my wife told me a story about a lady this morning, I believe, as we were coming from the gym or going to the gym. And she was stating that some people that she gets certain work done, you know, nails, massages, I don't know, whatever she does, to make herself look as beautiful as she is, was stating that a lot of them are fearful because of the deportation raids. And I can understand that from a humanitarian perspective, but I can also understand it from a illegal immigrant perspective, as well as being illegally in the country and not coming through the right way. See, those what people are not pointing out are the immigrants who came and who are coming through the right way. Yeah, America has a very lengthy, slow immigration process, and it's a reason for that. Not only is the backlog humongous because everybody wants to come to America, but whether you're coming here on an H-1B visa, work visa, green card, student visa, etc., or people who want to become residents or visit, there's background checks. So we have to get in communication with your consulate, your embassy, and we have to make sure we have the account of all your personal information, and they have to do a very extensive background check. And until that comes back, don't forget, you could be number 50,000. But we have to do what's right by America. And one thing that Brandon Johnson said to a lot of the Chicagoans there is that, 30,000 Ukrainian immigrants were brought to Chicago. Yeah, America is still funding the war in Ukraine, and we have some sort of partnership. But nonetheless, they were brought over here by the U.S. for asylum because of the war in their country, and other neighboring European country took immigrants as well. That's very different from people just fleeing their countries for economic opportunities. That's very different. So again, Brandon Johnson needs to sit down and really take accountability of how Chicago is now in a turf war from people who are legally in the country with the residents, and especially those Black residents. So I don't want to hear anything from Brandon Johnson, Lord. Now, if we shift again to international, we understand the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. But President Zelenskyy has confirmed that U.S. military aid to Ukraine remains uninterrupted, despite recent policy announcements from the new U.S. administration. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had announced a 90-day pause on foreign aid grants, excluding those to Israel and Egypt. However, Zelenskyy emphasized that military assistance to Ukraine has not been affected, underscoring the critical role this support plays in Ukraine's defense efforts. And this, assures these assurances come amid ongoing conflict in eastern Ukraine, where Russian forces have intensified their offensive operations. And the continuation of the U.S. military aid is pivotal for Ukraine as it navigates these challenges and seek to increase their defense capabilities. I think Marco Rubio, the new Secretary of State, should definitely impose a 90-day pause. There need to be peace talks, ceasefire talks, just as well as Trump influenced the ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas. The same thing needs to happen with this. Again, we're forking out billions and billions of dollars. We're already at $200 billion. I wonder what it would be. And again, the most important thing is this not the money, okay? It's the laws of life that's occurring in a lot of these countries. But since America is footing the bill, even though that Ukraine is in Europe and there's all sorts of European countries surrounding Ukraine that can just meet them at the border, man, here's, $100 million. But America, we're sending tons of millions of dollars over there and military equipment and military liaisons. So again, who's footing the bill on a country that's located in Europe that's surrounded by European countries that have exported the world for all this riches? Think about all the diamonds that France and the UK and those countries that surround have taken from the continent of Africa. They got the money. If they don't got it in cash, they got it in diamonds. If they don't got it in diamonds, they got it in gems. They don't got it in gems, they got it in gold. They have the money. Why we keep forking out? These are just interesting things that I think about, how America and your tax dollars are paying for all of this. Now, in the Middle East, President Trump's recent suggestion that Jordan and Egypt should accept Palestinians from Gaza has sparked significant backlash because Trump proposed relocating over 1 million Palestinians to neighboring countries to clean out the Gaza Strip, saying it's in shambles, is in turmoil, is in rubbles. The whole city is demolished. There's nowhere for them to live safely. Is President Trump being presidential again? Is he really looking out for the best interests of those Palestinians who land has been destroyed because of war? Because this idea was met with strong opposition from Hamas, Jordan, and Egypt. Everybody was like, no, we're not going to do that. All of whom rejected the notion of forced displacement. President Trump just gave an idea, and they're like, no, we don't think that's a good idea. Hamas said that's not a good idea. Jordan said, and Egypt stated. But a lot of critics have condemned the proposal as impractical and unethical, arguing that it fails to address the root cause of the conflict and could lead to further instability in the region. What do you mean it fails to address the root cause? We already know the root cause. It's called war. And unfortunately, during war, people are displaced. The suggestion has been labeled as wild by figures such as Basahari Baba, chair of Arab Americans for Trump, who emphasized that Palestinians need not leave Gaza for reconstruction to take place. Okay, well, I can tell you this. When you have people who are in desperate need of resources in a war-torn city, a war-torn part of a country, it's very hard to bring in demolition and bulldozers to clean that out and start to rebuild. Like once you clear that out where it's safe and you started to bring in materials to rebuild, I can see that the people can really put their hands to work to help rebuild their city a lot quicker. But they're going to need support. They're going to need support from a lot of these other countries that surround them. When we're talking about Arab nations are some of the richest countries in the world. And matter of fact, let's look at some of these countries. Some of these countries are not as rich, but some of them are. Saudi Arabia, very, very profitable, very rich. Okay. United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Morocco, Lebanon, Syria, Sudan. Now, Sudan, of course, is a East African country, but for some strange reason, because of some of their languages, okay, are considered a Arab country. Afghanistan, Bahrain, Oman, Qatar. Qatar is a very rich nation, okay? Somalia, Ethiopia, and Pakistan. But the ones that really stick out the most for me is Qatar, Bahrain, Afghanistan, Jordan, Lebanon, Kuwait, Iran. Kuwait is very rich. Morocco, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. Those are the main, and Yemen and Algeria as well in North Africa. Because we understand a lot of North African countries, believe it or not, is considered white by the United States of America. I showed this on my last night broadcast. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not black, I'm not white. I'm just American, I'm not this, I'm not that. And I understand it. But unfortunately, America stemming from what part of the world you come from has deemed you a particular race. Can I show you guys that? For you guys who may not be familiar with that, depending on where you're from in the world, America has deemed what race you are. Okay. And of course, I think things have to align as far as your phenotype, your complexion. Okay, let me show you this very quickly. This is coming from United States Census Bureau.gov, census.gov, and it states that white. What do America consider white people? A person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. And as I stated before, you have countries like Algeria that's in North Africa. Okay, Egypt is in North Africa. So again, just wanted to point that stark difference out to you guys. But on with the news. So turning to economics altogether, there's been reports that are going to be spikes in gas, spikes in eggs, spikes in milk, and a lot of American consumers are going to face record high egg prices, a trend that actually began during Trump's presidency of his first week. The surge in prices is primarily contributed to the 2022 outbreak of avian influenza, bird flu, which led to the loss of over 20 million egg-laying chickens in the U.S. So that is stemming not from Donald Trump taking office or any sort of tariffs, sanctions, or executive orders that he signed. This has to do with the bird flu that has unfortunately ravished over 20 million egg-laying chickens. So that's the reason for the increase in egg price that we're going to see here pretty soon. Also, this is probably some good news for a lot of people because the IRS is rolling out a major expansion of its free filing program, offering relief to taxpayers across more states. At first, it was only in a handful of states. You guys want to go to irs.gov and check out if your state is covered so you can file your taxes right with the IRS. Now, I wonder if they're going to give you any sort of insurance if, as long as you input your information correctly, if they somehow compute it wrong, or they're going to come back and do an audit and say, you owe us $200,000 and we're going to need to take your house. You guys are familiar with that IRS. And ever since the IRS has been threatened to be abolished by President Trump, now they come out with expanding their tax filing program. Look at the IRS. Because starting this year, the initiative will provide no-cost tax filing options for individuals earning under specific income thresholds, targeting low to middle income families who may otherwise struggle with tax preparation fees. The program, initially plotted in selected states, has now expanded to include more jurisdictions, making it accessible to millions of Americans. And this initiative is part of a broader IRS strategy to streamline tax filing and alleviate financial burdens. And the question is, are you eligible? Because the expanded program has income limits, but is designed to include gig workers. A lot of people on Fiverr and all these other platforms who are doing these kind of side jobs, but it includes gig workers, self-employed individuals, and families earning below a certain income level. Again, go to irs.gov to check that out, because this move by the IRS follows years of advocacy from taxpayers and organizations pushing for simpler, more affordable tax filing options, especially for those who qualify for deductions and credits. So a lot of people who were dealing with TurboTax, H&R Block, Jackson Hewitt, whoever knows, and some people like myself, I use a CPA, which, again, CPAs are expensive. A good CPA is expensive. But again, they have, in my opinion, a higher understanding and knowledge of your TurboTax agents, the live agents, even though they may be a CPA, as well as, people individually that may go to H&R Block in person or H&R Block online, right? Again, you have TurboTax, H&R Block, you have Jackson Hewitt, you have TaxWise, you have the IRS now. But again, all of these for some people could be very, very expensive when you're not making that amount of money. Okay. But if you can afford to pay anywhere to $500 to $1,000 to get your taxes filed correctly, then I will probably seek out a CPA who possibly used to work for the IRS. Some of them are some of the best because they know and they follow the IRS tax laws. They know the tax code. So they can do all sorts of tax code magic and be within the confounds of filing your taxes correctly and by law. So again, you might want to go to irs.gov and see if you can file directly with IRS, save you guys a couple of dollars. But nonetheless, I thank you for joining me here this morning. You guys have a great and wonderful day. This is Blacklogic.